Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and welcome to the Property Wise Property Show. I'm your host, Kieron Bateman, and I am still here with the man himself.
Shaz Nawaz, and nice to be here, Kieran.
Nice to have you here from so many miles away. So, do you want to tell our viewers and listeners where you are today, Shaz?
I'm sat in Islamabad in Pakistan, and I'm enjoying the heat, by the way.
I'll bet you are. It's been raining in the UK. We've had thunderstorms here in Peterborough.
Really?
Yep. Thunderstorms, thunder and lightning. You took the sunshine with you.
I'm missing the nice weather in that case, aren't I? I love it when it rains, as you know.
Yep. You are missing the beautiful weather. But
I'll book the next plane back, Kieran.
You do that, and I'll see you when you land.
I look forward to it.
Amazing. So this week on the Property Wise Property Show, we are doing some property and we are doing some wise and everything in between. So I thought we would start off with the wise part. So we're doing wise property again this week. And you were going to continue with the traits that money likes, because obviously all about property, and property likes money and property takes money.
Absolutely. So we talked about this not too long ago, and I shared a few traits, and I think it's important for our listeners and viewers to understand that although money doesn't have a consciousness per se, and it doesn't talk, it doesn't walk per se, there's no physical being to it.
But it does flow.
It does flow, and it flows in a particular direction for a particular reason, which is very different to how humans and people behave. It behaves in a very different way, and money is consistent in the way that it behaves and in the way that it flows and moves. And once we can understand those reasons and adopt and adapt to them, there's a higher likelihood and a bigger chance that we'll be able to attract more money into our lives. And it's important, Kieran, that I focus on the word attract. So chasing after money doesn't work. Being desperate to get more money doesn't work. But creating an ecosystem around you, let's say a bit like a magnet, which attracts money through the positive traits that we're sharing on this particular episode, is going to help people get more money in their lives. And money isn't just about being centered and focused solely on money, because as we've talked about on different episodes and shows, that money is a consequence of doing the right things at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons.
Success leaves clues.
With the right people, exactly. So I think sometimes some people at least anyway, tend to misunderstand that somebody who's done well in life, that they are fully money focused or money orientated, and I think nothing can be further from the truth, because as you get to know those people, you'll see that they are more purpose driven. They have a particular vision, and because they're doing things in a particular manner, they tend to attract more success and more money in their lives. So this particular episode isn't about making everybody focus on just money itself. Money is a consequence of doing the right things. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because I think you find I think it was, I want to say Bill Gates, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this. But he said that he focuses his efforts on making the world a better place, making changes happen, influencing those changes and things like that. And although he's built his entire empire and he has a vast amount of wealth, he doesn't consider money to be part of who he is or his understand. He obviously understands business and money and that side of things, but money doesn't affect him, and he doesn't think about it. If he goes out and he wants to do good, he does good. He goes out and he sets up, his foundations and stuff like that. And yes, in the background, all of these things take money, but all that money that he puts towards that is a result of the predictable, repeatable success stratagems that he has followed over the course of his career.
Because and that's interesting because money or the pursuit of money itself can become a very oblique goal. Because if you think about it, let's say somebody who's earning about £30,000, okay, wants to have more money in their lives because they want a slightly better car or somewhat better car, somewhat better house, can afford to go on a holiday or a couple of holidays a year, and works out that basically they need £80,000 a year, uh, uh, and some possibly. And if they make money the only goal, maybe when they get to 50,000 or 60,000, they think, I'm kind of getting bored with this. I've got most of what I wanted, and this isn't exciting. It's not energetic.
It's not fulfilling.
It's not fulfilling. It's not in line with their personal flow. So you get bored. You get tired. And some people again might find that difficult to comprehend right now because they might not be in that particular situation. But as you know, I've come across a lot of people in the last 21 years of being in business, who perhaps started off by saying, okay, having a bit more money or quite a bit more money is what they want. And as they've developed their mindset, and as they've grown as an individual, they've realized a particular pattern correlation, Kieran, that they tend to do well when they focus on outcomes, when they focus on solutions, as opposed to being primarily focused on making more money. So people soon change that particular mindset and then have a particular purpose. And the word purpose and the word passion, as you know, are overused and sometimes possibly misused. So I don't want to use those cliche terms, but having a reason why you do what you do when you get up every morning is more likely to keep you going than just the pursuit of money in itself.
Yeah, it's the pursuit of happiness, not the pursuit of money. Money can't buy happiness. You could have all the money in the world and still be miserable. It does, mate. I mean, there is the old cliche of I'd rather cry in my Ferrari than, in any other car. But the sentiment is still, if you're not fulfilling your life, your dream, your goals, and you are pursuing something other than what is in line with you, and your mindset will change as you grow, and as you might start off dedicated to the goal of money, but as you grow, you'll again, success leaves clues. As you develop, as you grow, your mindset grows. As your mindset grows, you start looking at things differently. As you look at things differently, you start changing your progress. You start changing your focus, your prioritization, and your prioritization starts to be more in line with who you are as a human being, what you want to achieve, what your goals are, what the
absolutely, but
focus is.
yeah, absolutely. But money can buy you lots of things that make you happy temporarily, or sometimes medium term, possibly sometimes long term. So whether it's that red Ferrari moment that you were talking about earlier, or it's something else that people want, money can help you achieve those things. But I guess, big takeaway for this particular episode is money is a fantastic slave and a really horrible master. So don't ever make it your master. Use it what it was created for, which is a means of exchange.
It's a tool.
Okay, yeah. Don't get into this particular position where you end up being somebody who worships money and thinks everything evolves and revolves around money, because it doesn't.
Absolutely.
So some of the most unhappiest people in the world, Kieran, are those who have a lot of money.
This is true, and I think another thing worth mentioning, whilst we're on, happy, unhappy people, people with money, people without money, is there is a large portion of lottery winners that end up being broke again because they didn't have the right mindset to keep hold of the money they won. It was there for a fleeting instance, and then it went because they weren't in flow with the traits money likes.
You've just spoiled one of my traits, Kieran.
I'm so sorry.
You've done it again, haven't you?
It's almost like I read the script beforehand.
Somehow you're in tune with what I'm about to say, aren't you?
Maybe.
I'm going to spend less time with you. That's what I'm going to do. Spend less time with Kieran.
Spend less.
Motto for the day.
Educate Kieran less.
On that note, should we cover off some more of the traits that money likes?
Absolutely. I'll after you, my friend.
Okay. So a trait that I think we can all use more of and adopt more of is having a positive attitude. And here I'm not talking about hugging trees, and I'm not talking about being woo-woo and just being warm, fluffy, and fuzzy, by the way. Okay, but as you've heard me say before, Kieran, it's easy to be negative. That's why we have so many negative people in the world. Okay, it's easy to moan and groan about how everything's unfair and things aren't working too well.
But
and how
I
the
like
world's
moaning,
against you.
Shaz.
We're gonna have to change that, Kieran, and I'm gonna have to inject some positive attitude in you, because money gravitates towards people who have a positive attitude towards wealth, financial abundance, okay, and many other things that come with it. So having a positive can-do attitude about life is more attractive to money than being negative, because a negative attitude repels money. A positive attitude helps you to attract money.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And when we're positive, and I'm sure if you'd cast your mind back to some of the times you've been negative, you probably haven't performed at your best when you've been positive about something and things don't quite work out, because I'm not saying when you're positive everything's going to fall into place, and the world's going to be a better place, but because you're in a positive place, you'll see things differently. And when you come across hurdles, blockages, challenges, you'll think, okay, how do we now find a route around this, okay, and try and get to where we want to get to, as opposed to saying, damn, this hasn't quite worked. I knew it wasn't going to work. I knew it was a bad idea. The people around me aren't good. This isn't working. That isn't working. Blame the economy. Blame the government.
Blame anyone but myself.
The banks, exactly. Okay, so you've just got to have that positive attitude that this is a test. This is a gift. What can I learn from it? And how can I move forward and work towards achieving my goal? Because as you know, okay, most people are a 20, 30, 40-year overnight success and not a 5-minute overnight success.
Yeah, I mean, flash in the pan overnight success. I don't think, aside from, a buy one ticket, win one lottery winners, I don't think anyone is in the history of the world is an overnight success. Everything is always.
And let's make no mistake about it. Okay, whatever people's personal thoughts about this are, if most people were given a huge amount of money, irrespective of where it comes from, for those who are okay with obviously playing the lottery, will do that. For those who it's against their personal principles and beliefs and ethos or ethics, if they receive an inheritance, okay, 7, 8, 9, 10 figure sum, I'm sure most will accept it gladly. But the problem is this: when you strive and work towards something and it takes you days, weeks, months, years, decades, it's not the money that gets you to where you want to get to. It's the attitude and the things that you learn on the way,
the education,
the journey that helps you to maintain that particular persona and helps you maintain your wealth and preserve your wealth. Now, giving somebody who isn't good with money, giving them £1 million isn't going to make them any better with money. In fact, they're going to carry on doing what they've been doing since day dot. And they'll, as you've said, they'll probably blow that money in a very short period of time. Now, you give the same amount to somebody who's, let's say, got 10, 15, 20 years of experience of managing money, managing finances, managing people, managing businesses, okay, managing a family, for example, because not everybody has a business, but managing, being responsible for something, give them £1 million and they'll behave very differently because they've learned certain tricks, traits, characteristics, behaviors that will put them in a better place to manage that money.
Absolutely. And I think there's also a degree of should have taken a note because my mind's just gone blank. No, the you give someone money, they're always going to make the same mistakes they've always made, and I think that's very telling when, because I'm sure everyone has this conversation in their friendship groups at some point or another. If I was given £1 million, what would you do with it? And the first things people are always like, oh, clear debt if I have any debt, buy a house, buy a car, buy this, buy that, buy the other. And you notice with the majority of people, it's always I would buy, I would buy, I would buy, I would buy, I would buy. There's a much smaller group of people where when you say to them and you have that conversation, and you and I have had that conversation, if someone were to give us, £1 million, what would you do with it? The first words aren't buy, they're invest.
Absolutely, because I think the majority of people get the fact that money makes money. And if you're smart about it, you say, okay, how do I invest this? Let's call it capital, for want of a better expression. How do I invest this capital so I preserve this and then do two things with it? One is create some form of a return that will help me sustain and improve my lifestyle. And the second thing is, how do I now increase the capital so the value of this increases over time? Because if it doesn't, then it's going to obviously, let's use the word depreciation, okay? Because money will be worth £1 today is worth less than £1, say 20 years ago.
Yes, yes.
So they want that pound or that £1 million to appreciate in value, and as it appreciates in value, then your return becomes bigger as well. Because say 10% of a million, okay, is less than 10% of 1.5 million. So you increase that capital, and in return, your return on investment grows in proportion.
But that all comes down to mindset. If you are of the mindset that if someone gave you £1 million, you would go and buy your boat, buy your car, buy your house, buy your family a house, buy your brother a house, buy your sister a house, and then at the end of it, you've spent £1 million. And buying houses, it's very easy to spend £1 million.
Absolutely. I think most people, Kieran, haven't had that financial education or the exposure, or haven't been in that environment to understand that investing in a particular way, okay, earns you a particular return. Because if you speak to most people, and it's not their fault, by the way, they don't know where to invest, where to start, how to do it. Do they buy a property? Do they loan somebody some money and charge interest, for example, if that's in line with their personal beliefs? Do they buy stocks and shares? Do they invest in art? Do they buy classic cars? And there's so many. Do they put their money in crypto? Do they buy gold or silver? Okay, there's so many other options alongside these. Do they invest in a business? Do they become an angel investor? Do they start a new business? People don't know they have all these options, and when they do have the options, they don't know which one to pursue because they've never had the training to be able to do that. And that leads me to the second trait that I want to share today, which is having the confidence. Because money likes people who have the confidence and the ability to both create and manage wealth and manage their finances, but to also have the confidence and a particular aura about them to feel successful. Because confidence, Kieran, is a small village that sits just south of a city called arrogance.
Yes.
So we should never be arrogant, but we should just sit below arrogance, okay? Enough below it so we're nowhere near it, but we're very confident under our own skin about our own abilities in terms of investing money, making money, understanding finances, understanding wealth, understanding how to preserve wealth, understanding how to create intergenerational wealth. So all of those things are important,
But
and most people who
how do we know that, how do we know in ourselves the difference between being arrogant and being confident? Because for some people mistake confidence for arrogance, and some people mistake arrogance for confidence. How can we be sure that we're not moving our homestead further north into that city?
I think if you asked most people, can you think of the last time that you were being inappropriate uh, in terms of your behavior, where you felt you let yourself down? I think most people will be able to share an example, if not more than one example. So the difference between confidence and arrogance, in my view, is this: arrogance is where you think you know it all, where you think nobody should challenge you, where you think whatever you say, okay, goes, and people should listen to you for whatever reason. Confidence is having the ability to share your ideas, your thoughts, your vision, but at the same time having the ability to incorporate, listen to other people's feedback and say, I've got something to learn as well, but at the same time, I can share something with you where you can learn too. So it's having it's difference between being on a one-way street and a two-way street.
It's
And
the
confidence is
ability
a
to
two-way
listen.
street. Yeah, absolutely. Confidence is a two-way street. Arrogance is a one-way street where you're saying, I'm on the highway and I'm going at my own speed. I don't care whether I hurt you, upset you, disappoint you, or leave you in tears. I know what I'm talking about, and this is how it's going to work.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that. I think um, I was told something many years ago, and I do think it's true. Um, and it's confidence is the key to everything, and confidence is the key to everything.
Yep,
Now,
absolutely.
most people don't understand the difference between the two phrases, but there is a difference, um, and I think that that is very important. That you know you can be confident without being arrogant, and you can be comfortable with yourself. Be comfortable enough to listen and not take offense just because someone disagrees with you. Be able to know your own mind and know your own choices, and when challenged, be able to hold to that challenge and justify why you believe what you believe or say what you say, with the ability to listen back and go, that's a valid point. I will take that on board and incorporate that. Or that's not, I disagree with that because X, Y, and Z. Have you thought about it this way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
what's next on our list then?
The next one, which I think is very, very important, and we've kind of touched on it without touching on it, is responsibility. So money likes people who take responsibility for their finances, for the way that they manage their finances, for the way that they look after their money, okay, for the way that they take responsibility for their decisions. And remember, the word responsibility, Kieran, is the ability to be able to respond in any particular given situation. So you look in the mirror and you take responsibility for everything that's happened, whether you think it's your fault or not. It's your partly you're doing because you're in a particular situation because you took a particular step or action and then you weren't able to, okay, change direction because you either didn't see something coming or you didn't take the time to review and assess the situation. So you take responsibility for everything that goes right or wrong in your life. But when it goes right, you give the people around you credit for the support they gave you. When it goes wrong, you look in the mirror and think, what could I have done differently or better?
And whenever I have that conversation with myself, I always go, yeah, there was a lot I could have done different. I learned a lot from that situation.
Yeah, I mean, a really good example, and you and I've talked about this before, is, there's a documentary on Netflix which I strongly recommend everybody to watch. Well, in fact, there's more than one documentary, as you know, but one which is linked to this, which is about Bernie Madoff. Yeah.
Yes,
And
the Bernie Madoff.
and then people there are ending up in tears, and they're crying, and they're upset, and they've lost their inheritance, and they've lost all their savings. And truly, Kieran, I feel sorry for those people. But then I also think, how naive were you to actually buy in to something which was too good to be true? Did you not for a moment look around you and say, okay, this person is offering X return, whereas everybody else is offering a Y return, and the Y return in a direct competition correlation
much
and comparison
lower.
is inferior. So how can this person
and
be
that's
offering
about
this?
Stay
all
tuned
we've
to
got
Salam
before the
Radio
break.
after this short ad break.
And we will be back shortly
Are
after
you
the break.
looking for a career where you can make a difference? At Cross Keys Homes, we work with our local communities to create opportunities that change lives. We're looking for enthusiastic, talented people to join our team, from apprenticeships to senior management positions. Cross Keys Homes can support your development while you enjoy great employee benefits. There are so many opportunities for you to shine. Apply to join the Cross Keys Homes team at crosskeyshomes.co.uk.
Are you a savvy shopper searching for the best food deals? Look no further. Adams Cash and Carry can help you save big. We're not just a food wholesaler for takeaways and restaurants. We also welcome household customers at our warehouse in Westwood, Peterborough. Visit our website and enjoy wholesale prices on everything from drinks to flour, rice to burgers, and much more. To shop, go online and collect in store. Visit adamscashandcarry.co.uk today to start your savings spree.
2020 World Buffet is inspired by the best foods from around the world. See our teppanyaki chefs grill your food to order, or choose delicious Indian, Italian, Chinese, Mexican dishes and British favourites, all halal. 2020 World Buffet offers you unlimited food at a set price. Open 7 days for lunch and dinner. Catering, wedding and party services available too. Call 01733 566 320 or visit 2020buffet.co.uk. 2020 World Buffet, 35 New Road, Peterborough, PE1 1FJ.
Where can you get high quality and low prices? Amar Food Store and Halal Meat in Lincoln Road, Triangle is the place to go. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. Also send money to Pakistan absolutely free. We have all top brands at special offers, offer free customer parking and provide a free local delivery service. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call us on 01733 687 374. High in quality, low in prices.
Worried your tenants could stop paying their rent during this cost of living crisis? Next Move Estate and Letting Agents are offering landlords 12 months rent in advance. You'll get your rent paid for the whole year in advance. No strings attached. Too good to be true? It really is that simple. So get in touch with us today for this extremely limited offer. Call Next Move now on 01733 641 642 to find out how we can help.
You could be driving, you might be cooking, you could even be working. But whatever you're doing, you're also listening to Salam Radio. And if you're in business, your potential new customers could be listening too. So talk to them and let them know what you have to offer. Advertising on Salam Radio is affordable and effective. And by doing so, you're also supporting this valuable and important voice within the community. Call 07866 319 679 or find Salam Radio online and across social media.
In the heart of Peterborough. This is Salam Radio.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening and welcome back to the Property Wise Property Show. I'm your host, Kieran Bateman. I am here with Mr. Shaz Nawaz, and we are here live. So feel free to contact us. You can get in touch with the studio on 01733 602 133. You can text us on 07411 191 062, or you can get in touch on the socials. We are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And that's everything.
That's plenty of ways to get in touch, isn't it, Kieran?
It is plenty of ways to get in touch. So just before the break, Shaz, I apologise. You got rudely cut off. That was entirely my fault. I take responsibility for that. When we were talking about responsibility and the traits that money likes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just finishing off the point about taking personal responsibility for everything that happens in one's lives. And I'm sure, of course, there are certain things that are outside your control, which we don't need to go into today. But for the majority of things, we can take control. And it was, I believe, Earl Nightingale who said, "We're all self-made, but it's only the rich who admit it."
Yes.
And I just thought, when I first heard that, I thought, you know what? How true is that? Especially, obviously, thinking about, reflecting on the traits that I've shared so far on money in this episode and on a previous episode. Okay, it all comes down to personal responsibility for everything that's in your control that you can control, and then the things that you can't control, which I was linking to, obviously Bernie Madoff earlier on, which is, if something's too good to be true, then it is too good to be true, and we should always take things with a pinch of salt. And you and I talked a lot about this in terms of the positive benefits of negative planning. So thinking about everything that could possibly go wrong, okay, and then having a plan B, C, and D for it, okay, so that if that thing were ever to happen, at least you've thought about it and you're mentally prepared, if nothing else. But in terms of negative thinking, what we weren't saying is to have a negative attitude. What we were saying is to plan for the worst.
Yeah, and I mean, in planning for the worst, one of my favourite phrases is, well, okay, plan A didn't work, plan B didn't work, plan C didn't work. I mean, I'm just very, very grateful that the alphabet has 26 letters.
You've got plenty of opportunities, 26 of them at least. Yeah.
At the very minimum, and then after that, then then I'm gonna switch to the Greek alphabet and add a mega on there, and then we're gonna switch to the Chinese alphabet, and then the Japanese alphabet, and then the characters, and then.
No, you're not, Kieran. Then you're gonna after you get to H or somewhere, and you think, you know what? Let me look in the mirror. Maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe I'm doing something wrong. So maybe that's when personal responsibility kicks in.
Maybe I shouldn't be planning so far ahead. Maybe I should look in the mirror first.
Yeah, because if you get to Z, Kieran, and that the penny doesn't drop and it doesn't dawn on you, then I'll feel personally responsible that I haven't done enough to support and assist you, by the way. So don't ever put me in that situation, will you?
I promise not to put you in that situation.
Yeah, just don't get to Z.
We won't get to Z.
Get to Y, but
I'll
don't
get to Y. We'll stop at Y.
Yeah.
Speaking of why are we here? We are here because this is the Property Wise Property Show. So we should probably talk a little bit about property. What do you think?
That's a good idea, because we've done the wise bit at the start. Now we'll do the property bit.
So, moving on to property, something Shaz started a few weeks ago now, and we got sidetracked by a few other things, and so we're going to go back to it and continue on with the list of top tips for when people are looking at property, investing in property, looking at getting into the property business as it stands. But before we go on from there, I will say that when it comes to investing in property, getting into property businesses, I'm not a financial advisor, nor is Shaz. So anything we do say or anything we view are based on our own experiences. They're not based on any financial understanding per se, in terms of we are not equipped to give financial advice. So if you are further interested in anything we've said, feel free to get in touch, but more importantly, go and seek out a professional who can advise you properly. And so, on our top tips, Shaz started with Shaz has a long list of top tips for property investing, don't you, Shaz?
A very long list. That's right.
But we'll start at the beginning, and something that I think that people like to rush because it's the boring bit. It's the admin-y side of things. It's the bit that nobody particularly likes doing, and unless you decide to pursue this sort of thing as a career, is research. I think that people spend as little time as they can to try and get the best answer they can, and the internet has made that completely possible. But beware the internet trolls. There is a lot of information on the internet, and you need to do your research to make sure you know that what you are reading is truthful, accurate, reflective of the actual situation, and correct. And I think a lot of people do like to rush that step in their research and understanding what it is they're looking for. What do you think? What do you think, Shaz?
That's absolutely true, because you can't shortcut these things, Kieran. There's a certain amount of effort required to learn anything new or anything different. And you and I have talked about this before. If somebody wants to run a half a marathon, 5K or whatever, there's a certain amount of effort that goes into it. And if you don't put that effort in, okay, the minimum threshold entry requirement, then you won't be able to achieve that long distance or semi-long distance run or marathon that you're looking to achieve. And just like that, you've got to put in the hard hours, the hard graft, especially if you're a beginner, in terms of growing your knowledge. So you get to understand what is property investing. Most importantly, by the way, look at the history of property investing. Where did it start? How did it start? Who were the pioneers? What challenges did they have? What problems did they have? You have to know the history of the thing that you're looking to get into. And that's what most people miss. Alongside that, then you're obviously understanding what the different property strategies are, why you're looking to invest, because everybody's personal reason for investing is going to be different, hence why it's personal. Then thinking about how can you get into property investing, okay, thinking about who you can work with, the people that you need around you, the areas that you want to invest in terms of strategies. Do you want high capital growth and low yield or annual return, or do you want high yield and lower capital growth, or do you want a combination, or do you want to use other people's money, or and obviously have a smaller return, but having 50% of something is better than having 100% of nothing. So it's about thinking about all of those things,
Exactly that,
and being very sure in terms of where you want to be. And you can't get that from anybody else. You've got to do the hard miles. And as you know, Kieran, I've got up and down the country speaking a lot on stage, and the common question
and
is,
I come with
what
you.
are the top? Yeah, you do nowadays. Absolutely, that's right. And people sometimes ask, what are the 1, 2, 3 ways of getting to where you are, Shaz, or where to get to the next point? Well, the bad news is, in fact, the good news is there are a certain number of steps. The bad news is it's not 1, 2, or 3. Ask me the 124 different steps that someone needs to take to get to a particular stage, and I can share those with you. Ask me about the 3, but there aren't three because there's no silver bullet, there's no magic pill. Okay, and if you're looking to do three, then you're looking for a very lazy way to become affluent and successful. And I'm afraid, apart from the things that we've shared previously on different episodes in terms of winning the lottery or receiving a large inheritance, three ways aren't going to get you to where you want to get to. So you've got to do the hard miles, the hard graft, and the heavy lifting.
Yes, yes, you do, and that all. I mean, just think for 1 second, listeners, that we talked about. We're talking right now about research and researching what you get into, and just the depth of that very simple answer that Shaz gave that we've spoken about, and how many facets there are to it. You can't just because I know it's popular right now, you can't just go on and use a chatbot or a AI generator and go, what are the top 10 tips for getting into property? Because there aren't a top 10 tip. There are 10 tips, and we will share 10 tips with you. Absolutely, we will. But understand that that's just the tip of the iceberg. It goes so much deeper than that and so much more broad than that. And finding the tip of the iceberg is great. You're in the right area. You now know you're in the right area. Now it's time to drill down and see just how big this iceberg is. And I think it's important to recognize that. And I think alongside that, speaking of understanding things that people like to skip over, if you skip over your research, then you don't completely understand all the costs that are involved in property. I think that's one of the things that catches people out on more than one occasion when they're doing their brief analysis, because they'll go, well, I buy a house for 100 grand, I rent it out for 500 grand, £500 a month, I'm making 6 grand a year, boom, done, easy. Is it that easy, Shaz?
It can be, once you've done it a few times, and you know your way around where you're going. It's a bit like the underground, Kieran, because once you've been on the underground a few times and you've missed your stop and you've got lost, and you're from the Northern Line, you're on the Piccadilly line, on the Victoria line, okay, or on the Circle line, on the Hammersmith and City line, okay, then you soon understand how to get from point A to point B. It's like a maze, okay? But until you're familiar with it and you've missed a few stops and you've got lost, you're not going to know your way around. So the underground is very easy if you've used it for some time and you know where you're going. But until then, it's not that easy, no.
No, exactly. And I mean, the idea of, I'm just going to buy a house for 100 grand, rent it out for £500 a month, 6 grand a year. Take me 10 years to make 60 grand. So in 20 years, I'll have made 20 grand and got all the money back that cost in the house in the first place. It's never that simple. I promise you that.
Well, Kieran, as you know, a business plan never fails on paper.
No, exactly that. But what about all the ancillary costs that suddenly you need to take into account in that calculation that you would have found if you'd done your research properly, and now you're researching the costs? You've gone by purchase price and then rental cost. That where are all the other costs that are involved? And I promise you, there are a long list.
Yeah, I think it's important. We're not here to make it sound like it's harder than it is, but at the same time, we're not here to make it sound like a walk in the park. Because it isn't, and obviously we'd never knowingly, as you know, Kieran, misadvise anybody ever. So if you're looking to invest in property, as you've said, people need to be thinking about, okay, what's a desirable location for the types of tenants that they're looking to attract? What's the different distance between where they are and where their gold mine area or where they're looking to buy property? How far is that? Are they willing to travel? What are the rental yields and the returns in that particular area? what are the property prices in that particular area? How much money do they need to invest in that to get on the property ladder? How much competition is there? Is there any regeneration going on in that particular area, which is going to support the housing market? What's happening in the local economy, and what's the local council doing in that particular area? What's the population growth? What's the historical house price growth? Is there a promising future? Okay, and then obviously with that, and again, there's a lot of work here. If people haven't quite, or some people haven't quite caught on, what are the political factors, the economic factors, the social factors, the technological factors, the environmental factors, and the legal factors? Okay, that are going to affect this, and that what I've just shared with people right now is a model called PESTEL. So political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. So thinking about all of those things, okay, helps you get prepared to go to a particular area. Once you've done your research and you've done your homework, and we've talked about this a lot, Kieran, you're well prepared, you've got the foundations right, and the foundations are extremely important to property investors, then you're ready to go into the battlefield.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Completely agree. And then so now someone's done their research and they understand that research is impossible. That now caveat: you can never do too much research, but don't be paralyzed by research, and don't use research as a way of procrastination. Don't fall into that trap, because I have seen people do that before. They go, oh, I'm just gonna look into this, and then you speak to them a month later. Well, have you started yet? Well, no, I'm still doing my research. Okay, yeah, that's fair. 6 months later. Well, I looked at this, and then this came up, and I went down this rabbit hole, and I did some more research on that. So I'm still doing research. A year later, I'm still doing research because then this happened, and then this, and then, and we call it paralysis through procrastination. And 5 years down the line, they're still researching. You don't need
Absolutely.
that much research.
That's because, as we shared on the episode to do with money, they don't have the confidence to make that next move, Kieran. So they just keep thinking about the ifs, buts, and only. How many times have we heard someone say, oh, I had that great idea that somebody else has got. If only I'd have done that 3 years ago when that idea came to me, I'd be where they are today, if not in a better situation.
Yeah. And the other thing that we hear a lot is, oh, yes, but Shaz, what about this? 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 Okay, it's great that you're aware that these things are possible, but I promise you 80% of them, 90% of them, never going to happen.
And I think we all know that. I know everybody can resonate with this. All of those things we've worried about over the years, Kieran, most of those haven't happened to most people.
No.
So why worry about something which hasn't happened yet? Why not just be mentally prepared for it when it happens? Okay, as the old English saying goes, cross that bridge if and when you get to it.
Yep. And keep calm and carry on.
That's the best way.
It's the only way, in my opinion. So once you've done all your research, you've started to take action, because I think that's the next step in the process, is taking action, understanding what it is you're doing. Now you've done your research, you understand that you're going to the right area with the right strategy, with the right people behind you, with the right money, finance, however you want to build your business. So now you understand all of the things you need. You're now starting to take action. You're now looking for those properties actively. You're putting offers in. You're finding your niche, and you're drilling down into it. And I think that's the next piece of advice overall, is even if you trip and fall and it doesn't go according to plan, taking action is, you're going to make mistakes, but better make busy mistakes than no mistakes at all, because you've done nothing. that's a
Absolutely.
terrifying place to be. Where
Well, I think it's that again saying where you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
yep,
So you've got to take some shots. You got to take some risk. Whether this low risk, medium risk, high risk. You've got to speculate to accumulate, as we all know. So that all of that involves action, which you and I have covered quite a bit.
yep,
But I think once people are already and they've done the research and they're kind of clear on their strategy and they understand their exit plan, they understand how lending and mortgages work, they have their power team in place. I think a good way to people to start on property in the world of property and to gain confidence is when you go into a property, think about how you can increase and add value to a property, because that's going to get you to see a very quick and to some extent an immediate return. So whether it's decorating a property, whether it's replacing some of the old fixtures, fittings, windows to modernize a property, whether it's obviously organizing some more significant repairs, maintenance of the property, and obviously if a budget allows to obviously build some kind of an extension to expand the kitchen or a kitchen or a living room, or to build a conservatory to make it more appealing, or to do a garage conversion, which usually works well. Adding maximum appeal to the garden, taking good care of it, making it look nice, opening up the living area or the kitchen area, make it look open, nice, welcoming, appealing, and that all of that changes the perspective and the value of a property. I mean, if you go and buy a car, Kieran, I know you've done this in the past, and somebody hasn't cleaned their car, it looks dirty from the outside, it's dirty and filthy on the inside, chances are you're not going to buy it, because your first impression is a bad impression.
yeah.
Somebody who's cleaned up their car inside, outside, waxed it, polished it, for example, and you open the door and it smells nice, and the seats are nice and clean. It gives you the impression that this car's been well looked after, even though the person who's had it has been hampering it day in, day out, but they just made a big effort to clean it on the day you came to view it. It changes your perspective, because you can't see what they can see. You don't know what they've done, if that makes sense. So I think we're looking to add value to a property, small, minor, and major changes, are going to have a significant improvement on the perception and the value of a property.
Yeah, they completely are. I think it's also, and this ties in again with, funnily enough, more research. You'll know from your research the maximum current value of properties on the street that you're buying in, and you'll know that if you're buying, for example, below market value, and you're buying a property that needs work doing to it, take a holistic view of it. Is the kitchen good? Is the kitchen bad? Is the kitchen awful? Do you need to replace the kitchen? Is replacing the kitchen going to add the value of the kitchen back onto the value of the property in time? Because that's the other thing. A lot of, in my opinion, there's very few aspects of the property business as a whole umbrella that are fast, that are quick. Everything takes time. Everything takes a measure of time to do and to facilitate. So if you're going to rip out a kitchen, spend 15 grand on a new kitchen for the property, how long will it take you to recoup that finance, that cost? Is it going to be instantaneous? You're going to put a new kitchen in, the house is going to go up 20 grand. Well, in which case, get on and do it. Get it moving now. It's necessary. Is it going to add 5 grand? Well, then you're still 10 grand shy, so you need to hold on to that property for slightly longer to recoup the cost. It swings and roundabouts on that side of thing, but it's knowing what small measurable increases you can make to a property to add value, and how much value they are likely to add, to the point where your house is on par, if not exceeding, those that are considered the best in the street, at the cap of what you will get at this precise moment in time, according to the market rate.
Absolutely right. And in terms of talking about caps, that obviously in itself is a risk. So spending that time looking at the different types of risks that may affect you in your particular property strategy are important.
Yes.
So as you know, Kieran, we've seen a significant amount of changes in tax legislation, which we may cover on a different episode.
Some are
But
good,
thinking,
some are bad.
thinking about those, thinking about the legal complications you may face, thinking about if you have a bad tenant, how you deal with that, thinking about missed rental payments and your own personal financial challenges and how you're going to address that. Obviously, considering rising interest rates and how you're going to obviously accommodate that in your cash flow.
And
looking at it as
all of that, all of that does fundamentally fall under knowing your market, knowing your research.
Exactly.
And sadly, that's about all we've got time for this week. Until next week, walaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.